Conspiracy theories, they're everywhere. Even if you're not suspicious of the government or motives of others, you have to admit some world events just seem a little too convenient or strange to write off. Is there a more sinister game plan at hand here? From corporate conspiracies to secret organizations to alien visitors, some people think we aren't being given the full story. Google is Skynet. It started out with a search engine, then it moved on to email, and eventually transitioned into the smartphone market. Now Google has software that can beat people at games, and the company recently released a massive cloud-based AI program which can learn and make predictions. Naturally, some people are a bit worried. After all, a computer program which can learn and plan and has access to a lot of people's information and communication devices, despite sounding a lot like the plot from the Terminator movies, what could possibly go wrong? TWA Flight 800. In 1996, TWA Flight 800 had departed JFK Airport and was on its way to Paris when the plane inexplicably exploded 18 kilometers off Long Island at an altitude of over 11,000 feet. Investigators stated the accident occurred because of a short circuit which ignited fuel vapors. However, to this day, that explanation hasn't been accepted by everyone. Many eyewitnesses, including other pilots in the area at the time, reported a bright object streaking towards the plane right before it exploded. From this, conspiracy theorists believe Flight 800 was brought down by accident by a Navy missile which was being tested at the time. UFO cover-up. Statistically speaking, there has to be some sort of life out in the universe. If you're a conspiracy theorist, that life isn't just out there, but it's been visiting us for some time. Encounters with aliens and UFO sightings are often laughed off by many. However, there is ample evidence to suggest it's not all made up. First, there's the sheer number of sightings all over the world, which date back hundreds of years. When we have a large number of credible eyewitnesses, including pilots, military personnel, and even Ronald Reagan, the final proof for conspiracy theorists is that the description of the aliens and their craft is very consistent, leading some to wonder why the whole thing is being covered up. The war on drugs. In the early 1970s, America began its much advertised war on drugs, a campaign to cut off the drug flow into the US and to stop the dealers. For decades, many have thought that this was some giant conspiracy to target anti-government bodies and the African American community. After all, these tended to be the people most arrested on drug charges. In 1994, one of Richard Nixon's policy chiefs gave an interview which gave this conspiracy theory a massive boost by pretty much admitting the government used it as an excuse to target African American groups that it deemed dangerous. New Coke. In 1985, Coca-Cola decided to release New Coke to the world, and the world was not impressed. Fearing for their lives, Coca-Cola undid their change by bringing back Original Coke. However, this return had one massive switch. It replaced sugar with a much cheaper high-fructose corn syrup. This has led conspiracy theorists to claim that Coca-Cola intentionally released New Coke as a cover so that people wouldn't notice the change in the original Coke when it was unveiled. Through this, the company was able to switch over from sugar to corn syrup without losing any of its loyal customers. Throwback Thursday. Have you ever seen hashtag Throwback Thursday? You may have even taken part by posting fun old photos of yourself, and the NSA thanks you. Why? Well, conspiracy theorists think that this tag is in fact a government ploy to collect as much photo material on the population as possible to add to its massive facial recognition database. With hashtag Throwback Thursday, the NSA gets images of you they'd never have access to, and can build a database of what you looked like when you were younger, skinnier, fatter, or going through that hair metal phase. The moon landing. An oldie but a goodie that just won't go away. When Neil Armstrong hopped down on the moon and astronauts put up an American flag, it signaled the US had won the space race. If you're one of the many skeptics, all it showed was how far the US government was willing to go to fake the momentous occasion. Despite the moon rocks they brought back with them, disbelievers say the way the flag Buzz Aldrin planted flapped around shouldn't have happened in the vacuum of space. They also say that filmmaker Stanley Kubrick had proven with his film 2001: A Space Odyssey that Hollywood had the ability to replicate such a believable lunar scene. JFK. When President Kennedy was assassinated while riding through Dallas in November 1963, surely no one thought the gunner would get away. At first, it seemed like they had their man in the form of Lee Harvey Oswald. However, he was inconveniently gunned down a short time later. Then, evidence started to come forward that contradicted the original investigation, especially the belief that Oswald was the sole gunman. Numerous studies have disputed that Oswald could not have fired all of the shots associated with the wounds on the president. So who was it then? The CIA? The Soviets? The Mafia? The Denver Airport. Looking to build something that makes people really suspicious and question what its real purpose is? Look no further than the Denver International Airport. When it was built, no one could understand why it was needed given the current airport was still working just fine. Then it went $2 billion over budget. Where did all that money go? Maybe into the absolutely terrifying 32-foot statue of a horse with glowing red eyes? Or maybe it went into the creepy murals you see throughout the airport. The Elf on the Shelf. If you knew someone was watching you and reporting back to an unseen mysterious man, how would you feel? Enter Elf on a Shelf. This simple little doll has become a huge hit and is loved by parents as a way to strike fear into their children's hearts around Christmas time and ensure that they behave. If they don't, the elf will report back to Santa and you might not get any presents. Rather than torch little snitches, kids everywhere learn to be good and accept being watched all the time. This is why some people think the whole Elf on a Shelf thing is just a giant conspiracy to condition children to accept surveillance in later life. So folks, what do you think? Are any of these conspiracies real? Anyway, let us know which one you think might be true in the comments down below. And while you're here, check out these other videos, like this one, and subscribe to The Richest for more weird content every day. Bye-bye.